Scruffy Audio Network.
You love doing that. Hey, we're finally here on a Friday, June 14th, 2019. I got one of the best people in the Woodgym. I consider her family, a sister, part-time girlfriend once in a while when she comes over the house. Her name's Brittany Hochevar. She's a beast on the sand and better in spirit. So, Brittany, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having
Thanks for
me.
being so energized. She's here. She was... this is like a Johnny Carson, Ed McMahon thing, so it's kind of cool. So it's, Brittany, I haven't seen you in forever. I always open up the show with one question because I know you probably listen to all my podcast shows already.
I do,
probably
religiously.
Yeah, I know you do. I just want to make sure that your coffee is tasting well.
My coffee is delicious.
Good.
I mean, what I pulled out of there earlier was...
That cup's on the house.
Thanks. You're too kind.
From my lips to yours is where that came from. So it's about the same.
And all the living organisms in it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I mean, I've been studying some cool podcasts with like...
we do lab work.
Yeah, with different, Laird Hamilton's got me on some different things, and that was one of them. Just keep.
Did you have Bill Nye the Science Guy on the show?
Bill Nye? I love Bill Nye. You don't know her, do you? Program director Bill Nye? No, I call her program director. Okay. All right, I'm going to open it up, and then we can get loose, but. I'm so glad you made it here. I mean, I've been wanting to have you on forever because we've been doing it a long time and training. And the reason I started these podcasts were to have everybody understand who comes through the Woodgym, what their stories are. But most of the time, it's always type A, go-getters, never stop schedules at the top of their game, whatever they are. And I have so many interesting people. I'm booked through February 2020 with people that are all from the Woodgym.
That's killer.
It's killer. I mean,
killer.
It's like... Wow, because everybody's like, nobody, unless they're in the Woodgym, a lot of people don't know what it is and what's going on. So, I always ask this question. When did you know that you were different?
I think the first...
In your sport, you're an AVP.
Oh, in my sport?
Yeah, she's a professional sand volleyball player, but that'll be in the bio when they pull it up.
I think... the first thing that comes to mind was when I was in elementary school, and they were asking, "What do you want to be when you grew up?" And I responded with "great," and I didn't even know what that discipline was going to be, what that looked like. I knew I liked to move, and I knew I really enjoyed study. I liked the school aspect of things too. So I didn't quite know what that meant, but I think that just kind of summed it up quickly for me. Was whatever I'm going to do, greatness was something that I was going to just completely go after. As far as like in my sport, I don't know if I'm still even feeling like I knew.
That's kind of unique that you said great. John Lennon was asked that in elementary school what he wanted to be when he grew up, and he said happy. And the teacher ripped him a new ass for that.
Yeah.
For the Beatles, you looked at me a little dumbfounded.
No, I was just taking it in. I was,
happy. I mean, and a kid asked me, one of the kids that's in the gym now asked me, what's your definition of success? And I said, happy and less stress. I think those are my two biggest things. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, I've been through, in 28 years doing it, I've seen so many different people with so much income, so much fame, and then you got to figure out if they're really happy.
Yeah, and I think I would take it one step further, like what's fleeting and then what can be at the core, what is unshakable, what are these things that are immovable. And I would even take it one step further to the fruits of the spirit, where even being happy sometimes isn't necessarily it doesn't have the stick-to-itiveness that something where joy would reside.
That's right.
Where
we
you
talked
can have,
about that before.
You can have joy and sorrow at the same time. You can hold them in the same place. And,
right.
And so I get that. I think that there's a lot of things that come and go. Your health can come and go. Your finances can come and go.
Let me ask you this question, and I've asked it to all the guys that have been on here, from Harrison Smith to Josh Dobbs, all the pro football guys, baseball guys. Did you play more than one sport growing up?
Totally.
I love it.
I love it. Yeah, and I think I loved to compete, and I think as a female, like learning what that looked like, because I was competing with brothers, and like sport, you're still kind of tangling with the guys a little bit, and you didn't want to be just better than the rest of the girls. You wanted to still be good enough to compete with what the best kind of looked like.
Right.
And so,
and for the people that don't know out there watching or listening, that her brother is Luke Hochevar, one of the brothers that was on the show, a pitcher with the Royals. And then you have Dylan, who, my opinion, talking to your father that was on here also, Papa Hoch, is the best athlete that I've seen out of the three. Just the way he rolled around on the mountain bike, you could tell a lot about somebody, like what they do and just how he is, his bravado. It's, whatever. So you've been fortunate enough to work with, your brothers are studs. They're not just like normal dudes. So like in high school, was it more than one sport?
Mm-hmm. High school, I played volleyball. Junior high, I did some basketball until the high school coach said I had to choose between club volley and basketball. I ran track.
I could see that.
I started, my first sport, my first love was tennis. And then...
really? That's why I love these shows. I keep trying to tell you that. These shows, I never knew that. Yeah. Ever. And, you've been over the house, I can't even count, and hanging out. But the one-on-one podcast show from 30 to 50 minutes is amazing. Yeah. When did you play tennis?
When I was real young. My godfather was on the tour, and he was my first coach. And that was while we lived in Denver, and, we had access. And then when we got to the smaller towns, it wasn't a sport that was offered. And so I had to go away from it. Probably... in hindsight, one of my biggest regrets that I didn't really fight to stay in that arena. I swam. I was a swimmer for a bit. And
again, didn't know that.
Yeah, well, 5 a.m. wake up calls, jumping in a cold pool and just counting tiles on the bottom of the pool was not.
That's
not
that
my
sounds
mentality.
Like a guy I just
needed something
to.
Else coming my way.
Right, right.
Like I needed to solve problems. I couldn't just execute a skill. I liked balls coming at me, or like an actual defense, creating issues to, figure out. I liked it,
Counting tiles. I love it. I've not heard that ever. And I've trained a lot of swimmers of counting tiles. That makes so much sense. Yeah, there's no way your personality is designed for that.
No.
But don't you think that, going back to the tennis thing, I think our best athletes aren't playing that. They're pulled in the major sports. Like I've worked with so many tennis players, and they're so unathletic.
Well, what's interesting too is like there's the team aspect that you don't have, and that as a young kid you want to be with a team, you want to make a team, and that's fun. And then I ended up choosing volley, where you have the most amount of people in the least amount of space than any other sport. So like as far as like the team aspect of it, it's way up there on that list. It's the most popular sport for young women in the States, and like over 900 million in the world play it. So it's just a massive, massive sport as far as popularity. So right. The fact that I kind of gravitated that way makes sense. Is there the payout at the end of that road? Not what our tennis and golfers are looking at on the female side, and hopefully our soccer girls will win their case and they can get theirs too.
That venue that you just came from in New York City, was that in Manhattan? Because it was so beautiful watching what you posted of how it looked over the skyline. I think you were across the river.
Yeah, we were in Manhattan. We were in Chelsea.
Okay, yeah, Chelsea Piers, right?
Yes.
Okay,
exactly.
So you were right there. That was cool, and the stands were full. I mean, they looked like they were holding a lot, and those are like Thursday, Friday games and stuff, right?
Friday,
When did you start play?
Friday.
Friday you started
the
play.
qualifiers on Thursday.
Got it.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the main draw. Sunday is usually just semifinals, finals.
Well, I know you're a California person. I get that, but would you say is that one that you look forward to? Because
New
you
York
love the city. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in Brooklyn. And
that's right. You had a place in Brooklyn too. I forgot.
So I do love the city.
She's such a vagabond. She really is. I mean, in Brooklyn's where it's at. You like that more than the east side, the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and all that jazz.
Yeah, I like the soul.
Yeah.
You spread love the Brooklyn way.
Yeah. That's nice, and I don't get through Brooklyn, Bronx as much as I just sit in the city and do the tourist stuff and the normal stuff. But I mean, that's where. So, what do you like better, East Coast or West Coast?
Great question. I think to be honest, I think I'm kind of I'm falling more in love with the East Coast in a lot of ways.
Do you see yourself after you retire from volleyball? And I hope it's not anytime soon. But if you do, and when that happens, would you come back to the East Coast?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I don't see myself staying in Southern California too much longer.
Things have changed.
Things are changing fast.
Right?
Very fast. It's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
The cool is leaving.
And where do you reside in California when you're
I'm in Hermosa Beach.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I'm in the South Bay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you like it.
I do like it. All those things, they call it the bubble. The South Bay is the bubble. Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach. It's just, it is. It's this little bubble. It's removed from a lot of what else LA is.
You know what you do, Britt, and I don't think I've told you this, and each time we talk, and I know you're not here for long, but I'm a guy that sits in a house alone. If you wanted to come over tonight and have a glass of vino, you could do that just to chill. But I do think, and I do understand this, you, program director, gives me these eyes. It's ridiculous. Stay in your lane. The biggest trait I see about you is you adjust. You adapt and adjust to any environment more than anybody I've been around. And you embrace that no matter what it is. And that's what you were just talking about, something that just hit on. Like, I don't think people know how much you travel overseas for volleyball. And then you're here, then you're there. It's like you're the suitcase lady. You're always on the move. But then, you do these unbelievable things of I packed my trail mix and I'm going overseas to here, and then I'm going overseas to here, and then I'm in California, then I'm here, and then I could drive I don't want to say anything's ratty because I drive a horrible, I love my truck, but like you could get in anything, find your way to the Woodgym, that has Miles the Mouse running around and a snake and no sign, and then you're in this guts and you adapt to that like it's Club Med to you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, was that born, or is that just how you developed with the volleyball of like always, you never seem like you're too good for anything. You make anything work.
What's interesting is it wasn't until I was deep into the travel aspect of my career that I remember having a thought and a conversation with my mom when I was like 8 years old. And I wanted to be a missionary. And all of a sudden I'm like,
that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, I'm actually living that out. It might look a little, it might be, sport is the vehicle, but that travel was somehow in me. And I think it's the best education. It's incredible to see how other people live. And I think a lot of times we want to know what the differences are. And then when you wrap yourself around the globe so many times and you time travel more or less, you understand that the same stuff is happening over there that's happening here. And there's a humanity to it, and there's a humility to it. And when you are deeply rooted and you're deeply grounded, that's when you can kind of head into orbit.
I'm so lucky, and I guess that's why my happiness, the soul of this Woodgym and what I do, it doesn't replace a lot of things, and I wake up every day and I really do feel like I'm so blessed of working with so many different people. But the biggest thing that I really enjoy is I work with so many team guys, and then once in a while I'll get a freak athlete, freak person like you, and then a JP Smith, who's a professional tennis player. The way you guys grind on the calendar is amazing compared to all the other sports, because all the other sports are like, I'm here for the week, then I play on Sunday. I mean, NFL guys don't travel like the baseball guys or the basketball guys. It's what, 6-7 times out of the year, and it's one night. So it's really not the grind of that. But then it's guys like you that have to set up your own travel, your own logistics. So when we look at our calendar here off to the left, and you go through like a 4 to 6 month thing, I'm like, she's so complex, but then yet so simple. Mm-hmm. And I'm just so simple. Mm-hmm. I'm like, there's no way, tell me the last month where you've been. Last couple months.
Yeah, I think we started the season in Cambodia, and then we dropped down to Sydney.
There you go. See, and you talk like, I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee doing my gig here. We went to Oak Ridge, which is a town 7 minutes away. And then we, traveled down to Lenore City. And then we, we went to Chattanooga for a day. Okay, that's an hour and 20 minutes away in a car. Saying those two countries and going like it's nothing because you grind so much that way. It's such a gnarly grind. Yeah, because one, it's international. Two, you're on your own dime. You win, you get paid. You don't. So do you book
getting your way to the next city, all of that responsibility is on us. Yeah, I think my afterlife is what I'm calling it. My life after being an athlete. Being in the arena. We got to do something to help our volley athletes as far as like managing these type of things. It's too much. You want your mind in one place, and I think a lot of our major sport athletes get this luxury of they have a grind. Like the MLB grind is a ton of games,
right? But their sports agencies do everything.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just put, I watch all these guys.
I mean, I asked Luke, I was like, have you ever had to do your laundry in a sink? No shot. No.
And I watch these guys. I'm like, what are you doing? They're in the office on the phone. They're like, I'm booking a flight. I'm like, oh, cool. Who are you booking it with? He goes, well, I'm not really booking it. My agent's doing it. They're just going back and forth with me at the times I want. Mm-hmm. So I do agree with you on that. So you do all that. Mm-hmm. And so you go to Cambodia, Australia, and then where?
I actually took a week in New Zealand and just kind of, it was a bucket lister of mine. And if I'm going to make that large of a flight, then I wanted to see New Zealand. So I did the South Island in a camper van, and it was a blast. It's one of the most incredible places on the planet. One that's like, you don't find a lot of places that are untouched. And I think the New Zealanders have done a brilliant job of protecting their space.
This girl, I'm telling you, she's so deep and soulful. I mean, the people that you got to be on that level. I mean, that level of understanding all that. Like, we talked about it one time where you're like, this is what I pack for my suitcase to go. And it was like nuts, trail mix, this, like you pack all your food while you're, it's mind blowing. It's absolutely mind blowing. Again, I'm going to compare it to the MLBs where they get on the planes and they have the 2 seats and they have their certain drinks waiting for them. And they have the stewardesses putting their meals. I mean, it's totally... I'm speechless sometimes, and I've known you forever, but now talking about it and looking at it, and these microphones really like bring out some awesome truth serum of like what everything is. It's what you and JP Smith do is amazing because he has to do the same stuff, like book his hotels, and he travels with like his coach, so he has to like budget him in and do that.
You are your business. You hire and fire coaches. You're budgeting for your entire staff, your coach, your physios, your booking, coming here to the Woodgym, making sure I have my training blocks. That's on me. That's me being so tapped in to my what I need at that point in the season. So my wherewithal is pretty sensitive. And I think that's where when I can drop into a place, I can just drop into a place. It's not, hey, what's the time difference? The sun is up, let's go. The sun goes down, time to go to sleep. And so it's a conditioning. Like anything, you got to be in shape for it. But the wherewithal is pretty incredible to be a time traveler.
That's, we're definitely program director. We got to book her for part 2 because there's just not going to be enough time today I knew there wouldn't be enough time for Brittany. I mean, we could make time. We could sit here and go all day, but I know her time is very valuable. She's only in here for a New York minute and then back out, but we definitely, we'll get the viewers and listeners hooked because there's just so much. Okay, another question I want to ask. I mean, we could talk about that stuff forever. I mean, that's amazing. And I think I asked this to your father, Papa Hoch, who was on, world-renowned pitching coach and world-renowned, father. Respect for him. He's like a mentor to me also. I mean, every good coach needs a coach. Have you ever heard that saying?
True.
So it is what it is. I asked this question to a lot of the people that come on the show. Can you develop mental toughness? Is it either born, product of environment, or can you make somebody mentally tough?
Great question. I think it's kind of Rumi, the philosopher, said, how do you expect to be polished if you mind every rub? And I think that if someone is willing to acquire that as a skill, then it can be taught, and that blade can be sharpened. But if that full commitment isn't there, then no.
Brittany Hochevar is a savage, and everybody has a beast within them. But she's both, because that statement actually opened up my eyes. And the full commitment, sharpening the blade, I mean, that was amazing because I'm always, no way. I'm from the old school of Louis Simmons in Columbus, Ohio, that I studied under. He always said, you're either born a motherfucker or you're not. Mm-hmm. And I agree to that. And then I also agree that at some point at, the psych phase of 0 to 3, 3 to 7, 7 to 11, 11 to 13 to 14, you are who you are. Working with all the therapists that I worked up, because if anybody screwed up more than anybody in this room, it's me. So I understand that. But that full commitment that you talk about, and that hit on something that I've been working with some of my athletes, of understanding, even my girls, of understanding the full commitment of, that's when you can become mentally tough. That's what you're saying.
I feel like I was...
Now, I'm not talking grit, because I know grit can be taught now from all the books out there. Grit, that person has grit. I'm talking about like mentally tough. And I think the full commitment, when I'm looking at your eyes and looking at your spirit and who you are, you doing all the travel made you mentally tough. Or were you mentally tough by going, hey, I could do all the travel? Because I look at myself at 50 years old and go, there's no way I could do that travel. Because then I'm not fully committed to it. If I was fully committed to it, I wouldn't think about travel as being so fearful.
Sure.
Or fear.
I think it's both. I think you sit on a plane for 30 hours, you have to develop some mental toughness, some edge to go, yeah, I'm not going to go crazy, and this is where I'm going to put my mind, and this is what I'm going to work on while I sit here doing nothing.
Well, see, that's why a person like Brittany Hochevar and Dr. James Chu, who was my first guest on my podcast, the guy that climbed all 7 peaks of the world, when he talks about sitting in a tent waiting for a storm to pass for 4 to 5 days to be picked up in Antarctica, I'm like, what do? He goes, you just read a book or just sit there? And I'm like, you mental tough little nugget. I was like, you got to be there. I couldn't do that. So am I mentally weak, or I'm not fully committed to it? Bringing it all the way back around to that word. Because I think about so many people that even in here say they want to do it, but are they fully committed to it?
True. And I think I was lucky enough to be kind of the last of the old school. with Papa Hoch, instilling a lot, and then competing in a generation that was pretty cutting edge for women. Mom was the first generation of Title IX, and so like you kind of had the gnarly end of those athletes, and so the new school athlete, what I'm finding is that what you said just then, you can look in my eyes. There's very few times that the new school athlete looks in someone's eyes. When someone's about it, they're just about it. They just are. And you have to be in the presence of that person to know that they are authentic. But those type of buzzwords have been Instagrammed and tweeted and so much that now that's all they are words. And so then they get regurgitated by this new generation without knowing what it actually feels like or looks like to be about it. And so I think what's I'm finding, because I've been in my sport for so long, I've been a pro for over 15 years, and I'm now dealing with this new generation of athlete where they really want to be about it, but they just don't know how. They don't know what that looks like. They're just regurgitating what they've learned. They're very, very smart, and there's a lot of information rather than transformation. And so giving them the skill set, if someone's willing to stand in front of you and take an ass chewing and with tears in their eyes, but still come back the next match and get it done, that, okay, this can be taught. Okay, I can get in there. But I think it's one of those things too, where they do need that safe space, and they do need to know that, I know you have my back. So when you get on me for whatever, but that's how I was raised. And I already knew that, we crave that correction. We crave that, that edge, push me to the edge, show me what that edge looks like. No. And then let's go beyond that. No. But I think just kind of getting someone to that edge and convince them that it's still a safe space.
Right? No. I mean, when you're talking about, that's another whole big show. I mean, we got a lot of shows. I mean, this might be your calling of being my co-host of when you're coming in town. There's certain people on here that I'm like, man, I need them on here just a little bit more. You're talking about the gram and posting for the gram, mm-hmm. and posting for the grind, and all these kids on grinding. They don't even have a clue what that word you're saying. You're saying the right things, but they don't understand what it feels like. For one, what the grind feels like. It hurts. It's not easy. But it's cool to post I'm grinding with a picture of you doing something, but they have no clue. I mean, to the level of you're talking about the energy that somebody gives off when you see them and know that if they're fully committed or not, it's 100%. That's why you got to look at people. You got to feel people. You can't read people by reading stuff off social media. You got to look at people and go, that person wants it. That person doesn't want it. That person's half in. That person's lukewarm. Then you're talking about the old school. Who you are is Radomir Kovacic out of Yugoslavia that lived in Queens, New York, that I studied with and lived with. He's gone now, God rest his soul. He said, Charlie, remember, you want your athletes to come to you to tell them what they're doing wrong, not what they're doing right. Well, the new age athlete has to be fluffed with a fire hose up their ass all the time by how great they are and safe place, mm-hmm. and whatever, instead of going, wait a minute, you're paying me X amount of dollars. Don't you want me to tell you how to correct this to get better? Or do you just want me, mm-hmm. for 55 to an hour and a half, a pump up show?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's this misconception too on confidence. Like people keep talking about confidence. Oh, their confidence isn't there. Who cares? And it's okay to not have confidence sometimes.
I just talked to two parents yesterday.
And then that's when you get into the Woodgym. You
build confidence?
You get it done. You earn confidence. I think that's something that you don't. I didn't have confidence with my jump serve, and so you sneak into the gym and you set up the nets by yourself, and you hit enough jump serves to where you start to have confidence in that.
Wait a minute. Whoa, back it up. You just hit the magic word that your father and I talked about when he was on the podcast show. And it was, you went into the gym alone and did work on your own. I just rhymed on the dime, and I had no clue that I got my boo.
Wiki what?
What? Chicka, chicka, choo. All right, so we talked about that because all kids, because your father does pitching lessons. And, you know, I'm around enough softball girls and all that jazz and volleyball girls. And it's not football. It's not the sports that they don't give lessons. But when somebody goes, yeah, I grinded today. What you do? Well, I went to my lesson. Oh, so somebody was there for you to watch you do something. You know, we've lost this. The Todd Helton hitting balls in the garage into a net that his father set up, that the backdrop was a washer and dryer. And he said, come back in when your hands are bleeding. Oh, I'm sorry. He's the best pure hitter that's been through the state of Tennessee ever. So where did that art go to? I broke. You hear so many times like I broke into the weight room in Central Florida to work out on Saturday nights. Okay,
same.
In 1988, you did.
I broke into
went
gyms,
through a window or whatever, like to get better at what I want. And I don't care if anybody's looking. You know, so.
But that's a sacred space. And unless you can get into the guts of that and you can touch that sacred space where nobody is watching, you can't handle it when everybody's watching. And you know those people. Once you get into competition and you know the people that have only trained or have only done something with somebody watching. And then that goes back to the mental fragility.
So do you think that really separates the good from the best of, I went and did a lesson with Hoch. Did you throw on your own? I went to do a hitting lesson with so-and-so. Did you hit on your own? Well, I don't hit on my own.
Correct.
Right.
Again,
they're not fully committed. Therefore, they're not going to be mentally tough.
Getting into the...
Is that what you're saying?
I think those times alone are your biggest gut checks.
God, I know it.
It's like, am I going to get in there and do the... In my mind, I was always chasing somebody that was working harder than me. And then come to find out, it's like, whoa, wait. You get to a point where you're like, man, I think I might have been the only one doing that.
Yeah.
You know, like how rare that company is, but how sacred that space is. And when nobody is watching, when you are doing it on your own and you are feeling yourself. And a lot of times I feel that's when the Holy Spirit can talk to you the loudest, is it's you and that's it. To be able to get up in the guts of that is something that's sacred, and it's hard and it's not easy and it's uncomfortable. But I definitely believe that that's a lost art.
Is that because of our society? I think, and I'll answer this for Brittany, it's not only society, I think it's our environment. I even think it's our parents, because I know Brittany will be like, Bingo was his name-o. The parents nowadays want to do what? They want to be best friends with their kids. They don't want to parent at all. They want to be liked. The word that you use that I love is uncomfortable. Nobody wants to be there. And that's what I'm so tired of, when somebody goes, oh, this hurts. Well, good, because it's supposed to hurt. It's going to get better. Growing pains, whatever it is pain to pleasure. You know, it's all biblical also. You can bring it all back to, you know, I know your walk with Jesus Christ is amazing, but it all what you do in the dark, you know, do things when, you know, nobody's looking at you. You know, those are the things that are sacred. And like you said, I have my best bike rides when I don't have my headphones on. You know, I have my best walks when I'm not listening to something, because then you're just one-on-one, you're mano-a-mano. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
I mean, so our society has broken down to where it is so much of, are you really crazy or normal? Because I'm viewed as abnormal crazy because I have a Woodgym with no sign. It's open 24. It's whatever it is, all these different things. Well, and I think it's normal to train alone and practice your craft and hone your craft alone. I think it's normal. And
I'm not a parent to know what that pull feels like. But it seems that you either want to do something for them, give them an opportunity you didn't have, allow them a different jump off point. But then there becomes a point where the kids want you to just tell them how it's done. Just if you stand there and dig that ball in that area, that's your job. Anything outside that area, not my responsibility. So I think you kind of get this like interesting definition of responsibility and accountability. Because it's like, well, this was the formula that was given to me for greatness. Mm-hmm. If I just follow this formula, then why am I not the best at what I do? And I think there's that extra little, that you have your comfort zone, and that's still within the comfort zone. Having a formula is still in the comfort zone. A formula is repeatable, but also too, a formula is predictable. Mm-hmm. So now everybody's following a formula, and then you get into the uncomfort zone where it's like, oh wait, this is outside of what I studied or outside of what they told me I should expect. And now I'm uncomfortable. And then that creates, just, you have the uncomfort zone. And then beyond that is the unknown zone. And that you have such few people that live in the unknown zone. And that's where true discovery happens. That's where true innovation happens. That's where in, I guess, kind of, bringing it back to my studies, that's where Christ dwelled. That's who he was. So even when you talk about like mental toughness and stuff, I think we missed the point with who Jesus Christ was and being Christ-minded, and how many times he went away to pray. He went away. He removed himself from society. He removed himself from his closest friends, because sometimes that isn't the best advice you could get. Like sometimes there's too much influence. Influencer is the next buzzword. Yeah. Like, I don't like, who are you responding to? What's your responsibility? Your response time, your ability to respond, but what or whom are you responding to? So I think just kind of really dissecting who Christ was and his Christ-mindedness was something that I find fascinating, because he wasn't influenced.
Right. Yeah.
He knew who he was, and he knew what he was supposed to do, and that's what made him the most controversial figure of all time. And
I studied a devotional, months ago that talked exactly like you just said. That's great. You hit on that about like, watch your advice from whoever you're taking it, even your pastors, whatever. You be alone and listen to Jesus Christ. I mean, and that's, in my industry, I get it in both ears, of like, oh, you should do this with your kids or this with the business or this. And then you're like, information overload. So then you got to pull back, like you said. And just as you said, like it says on the monkey, what's our monkey's name again? Maurice the monkey.
Maurice the monkey, okay.
Just be.
Be
still. I think it's Psalms 46:10, I think, of just be still. And that, when you do that, you really are gaining a plethora of information. Now, do you see this in our generation? And when you just talked about it, and I said most people, and I'm on this big word right now the last couple of months, exposed. I love that word, exposed. Mm-hmm. And then I like, two things we talk about, exposed. And are you not at the level, and maybe it's social media again, is where these athletes or even our society, they hate these two words, mistake and failure. Instead of understanding and embracing failure as your friend, they hate to make mistakes, and they think it's bad when you strike out or you miss a volley or whatever it is. And we watch that, and even Papa Hoch and I were talking about that. We talked about it yesterday. Nobody looks like they're having fun anymore.
I agree. It's boring.
It's like,
yeah.
I mean, all these kids, I'm going to watch all these different sports, and it looks like, they're so tight and they're so looking over at their parents, or they just look miserable. Nobody looks like they're having fun, and they're afraid to make a mistake. They're afraid to be exposed. They're afraid to be laughed at. That's what we talked about when I talked with, listen to Steve Nash, self-deprecation. If you can't make fun of yourself, don't come on this team, because those are the most confident guys. They're the secure guys. The insecure people are the ones that can't take a joke, can't laugh at themselves, have to be right all the time, can't make a mistake. Steve Nash, like, I don't want that guy to work with me as a trainer, basketball coach, or anything.
Don't you think that goes back, were saying as far as problem solving, and that's why you loved the team thing and all that, and they don't know how to problem solve because they don't really know the game. They know their position, which they don't have that to pull from.
I think that the mindset of progress over perfection, and then, failure or mistakes or whatever, if the mind is in the appropriate place, it's just more information on how to solve the problem. Right, and I think we've lost the skill of problem solving. And
because I don't think anybody's student of the game anymore. I don't think anybody's really dissecting film and watching like they used to. That's all I did was watch speed videos and weightlifting videos overseas. You probably did the same thing. Now everybody's on Insta watching what somebody else is doing. So you think they're being self-minded and self-centered, but they really just want to watch everybody else's world instead of there's a lot of times I don't post stuff in here, what's going on, because it's something cool to be private with, and we're just training.
Yeah, I don't know. I think stats and video is at a level that we've never had it before. I think the accessibility to stats and video is so readily available. Right. That I think you do have a lot of athletes studying the game. But I think that persona, too, of just flipping the switch when you get on and when it's your turn to go and compete and just getting after it and knowing that you have a lot of tools in the toolbox to compete with, that it's not just an execution of skill, that I'm going to have a mental edge on this person and I'm going to, our sport, we're very, very exposed. We're exposed financially. We're exposed emotionally. There's only two of you. There's no substitutions. If you're having an off game, everybody knows it.
You're exposed.
Everybody knows it.
You're watching mistakes.
And we're in a bikini. So everything is out there. How well you train, how well you take care of your body, what you ate for breakfast. It's on display.
That's true. It's not covered in a uniform.
It's not covered in a uniform. It's not covered by a teammate or a coach or even a paycheck for that matter. It's not like, well, I'll take it for this amount or whatever. You got to earn it. I mean, it's an earned sport, and we've talked about that with what you do. You got to earn it, but the love that you have, the passion you have. That's another question I bring up. Can you coach passion? I don't know about that.
Can you make somebody fall in love with the game? Like if a parent played the game and they're trying to get their kid to fall in love with the game that they played, same position, and can you make
I think it kind of goes back to how you played it.
That's the number one question I ask, and it stumps everybody.
No, I think it's sometimes it's not what you do, it's how you do it.
Right.
And I think that goes back to kind of there's not that, it doesn't look like people are having fun or whatnot, like you said. But if and when you're fully invested and you're passionate about it, it's hard to not watch someone that's passionate about it and then share that with them, share that joy with them. If someone's fully engaged, no matter what they're doing, that they're dropping into their moment. That's fun for them. There's passion there. There's life there. There's
love.
There's vigor. Yeah.
I mean, because you look at you and you love the game and you're passionate about the game, even not just the game, but wanting to change the game, the ins and outs, the office part of the game, so to speak. I don't know how you would call that. The
management.
You're like the ambassador for the sport, the long-toothed tiger person in it that you want to change all the things. Well, that comes from the love. That comes from the passion. And I don't think you can coach that because every time you're here, I know it's going to get deep. I know it's going to get real. I know I better have time for Brittany because it's going to get, I wouldn't say long-winded because long-winded means boring. I mean, it means let's set some time for this. And that's when we go grab coffee or you come over and we just, Ashlyn, my oldest daughter, loves being around you because she's so soulful. and, just the passion. I don't think you coach that. I think you find your passion and you go through it. I mean, when I talk to clients on the phone, whether it's a dad, an agent, or an athlete, they're like, I've had them say, shit, I want to come to this phone right now and come work out with you. Well, I don't turn that on. No. I don't get into a studio and have a script and go, well, let me put this out. It just rambles away. And the passion of anybody you can't fake it. You can't fake passion.
No, that's true. That's true. I think it even kind of goes back to, how you say you don't warm up for a bar fight. You have one power switch and you just, turn that is, you got one switch. It's either on or it's off. And I think also too, we've got a lot of the, I got to activate. I got to flip all these switches on, and I got to turn this switch and this switch, and then if something's uncomfortable in any moment, I don't know. Where I think that's one of the coolest lessons I've learned from you is that it's one massive power switch. You just turn it on. And you don't warm up for a bar fight.
I put everybody in the deep end of the pool. Right. The oven's on broil, then we back off. It is. Because I want to see what the athlete has. And that's called an eval. We want to watch. I want to go, here's the work. Whoa. Aren't we, the whole thing. Petrone doesn't warm up. Well, I don't wear you out before the workout if that's what,
There's a fine line between warmed up and worn out, too.
Yeah, there really is. And that's what we talk about. I mean, that's a whole debate over and over again. Would you say the number one, and I think it is, the number one word for success or to be a winner or to be a champion, and I see it with you, I see it with everybody that's been on this podcast has it. It starts with a C, and it's called consistency. And whether it's consistency with love, with your partner, consistency with your kids, consistency with your diet, consistency with your training, consistency with your walk with Jesus Christ, whatever it is, do you not see that it's the best?
That's true. I think
that it has to be consistency. Oh, we just had a doctor come in the house. Doctor, it's green scrubs day. Green scrubs day today.
Consistency, absolutely. But I think that with that being said, you always feel like you're just around the corner from that next discovery. Like you're just about to figure, you might just be on the verge of figuring something out in your own game, in your own body. You might be, you're just around the corner. So I think that concept of outlasting creates that consistency.
Right.
We're like, I'm just about there, and also too, like never feeling like you've arrived.
Right. Yes.
Never feeling like you've arrived. And that creates the consistency. And I think a lot of times where you see an athlete just where their potential never becomes potent is when they think that they've arrived because they've always had all this potential. And I believe that is consistency. That's very true.
And
I agree.
And the consistency goes back to, you don't have a choice. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
true. You don't give yourself an out.
You don't give yourself an out. The bell rings every day and it's whether you want to get up and get after it or not, right?
You just do hard things.
Yes.
I think even too, there's something that, like my fiance and I do is like when it's cold.
Wait a minute. What was that? Whoa, again. Beep, 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 beep. I noticed something on your finger.
How about that?
That's the most unique ring I have. Yeah.
He and a childhood friend designed that.
No way.
They designed it. That's Grandma's center stone.
Oh, come on.
I know. Isn't that fun? It's funky and cool.
I mean, I know we haven't had time to talk because you just, got in. And but the only thing I saw was that Instagram post that was, wholly romantic. I said yes in the video. I'm like, does he have a brother? I'll go the way. Let's go. I want to be in a helicopter with... That was amazing.
No kidding. Yeah,
did you just go, where did this guy come from? Because I think I'm a romantic, but this guy just raised the bar.
Right. I know, this guy. Totally.
This guy.
This guy.
That's his new name. This guy. She's not giving nothing away on this. But I noticed that rate. That's amazing.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Yeah, you did great. Thank you so much. But one thing that's nice is that if something's hard, like for example, this winter the Pacific Ocean was so cold, and it was like we got to go jump in. I really don't want to jump in. Why? Because it's hard. It's cold. That's exactly why we have to do it.
I see so many athletes like that. They don't survive here, but the hard is why.
And then once you do it, you develop this layer of resilience and this layer of I can do anything and this layer of invincibility. And I honestly believe that when you put your mind in those spaces and you follow through with it physically, then all of a sudden spiritually, you're reprogramming your cells. Your cell structure is totally changing into believing that it is on some level invincible. And so you're able to play longer. You're able to not get injured. You're able to have that extra edge because you've done the hardest things that you can think of.
Right.
In that moment.
Right.
Why don't you want to do that? Because it's hard. That's exactly why we do it. And so like that's just an example is just jumping in the freezing ass ocean.
Who's that cold guy?
Wim Hof.
Yeah. I mean, I follow
Absolutely.
him. I mean, that son of a bitch.
Yep.
I mean, he embraces cold every day, 24/7. Everything's cold. He looks cold.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, just how much he has discovered with breath and extremes, and it's fascinating. I mean, it's fascinating.
Do you believe, I don't know if you listened to Laird Hamilton's podcast with Joe Rogan, but do you believe what he was talking about? Because I started doing that where mouth breathers to nose breathers of, close
Absolutely.
your mouth and try going, and it creates more CO2 oxygen.
So I did their extreme performance training certification. And so there were workouts where we could only breathe through our nose.
Again, savage.
And
Brittany is a savage.
and it's just being in the bottom of the pool of a 13-foot at a 13-foot depth with dumbbells and having to explode to get to the surface, but knowing that you have to have the presence of mind to be balanced in order to explode, that you can't jump off. You can't have a bullshit jump off because you're never going to breach the surface.
Right.
And so having that presence of mind going, it's okay. I'm just not breathing right now. I'm just at the bottom of the pool. There's nothing wrong. I'm okay. Now let's execute something. And I think the breath is in a very powerful place. I mean, scripture, that is the spirit.
I mean, I'm doing that now, and I've been practicing that on my walks. My old man walks is not breathing through the mouth, because what did he say? He said, like, 200-300 years ago, we started mouth breathers, and it slowed down our CO2 oxygen. It was kind of cool. And then I started training with my mouth closed and just going through my nose, and it's different.
I think there's always something to like ancient practices. I lived and played in Turkey. I lived and played in Russia, and even just their contrast therapy of the extreme hot saunas into the cold plunges and doing cycles like that. I think this country could very much benefit from things like this, because you get a high and you get almost a drunk on your own endorphins. The same drug that's in LSD is naturally found in our lungs. And so if we can just tap into that, we don't need anything extra.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of gotten to a point where we always feel like we need something extra when actually it's already in us.
That's what he talks about.
If we just execute, like a good level of ancient health, let alone an excellent level of ancient health.
Yeah.
Those were the extreme athletes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's what you say. That's what we talk about with training. From everybody I have in here, from the the Browns owner to the athletes, is no substitute. There's nothing like training when I'm done after a hard day work, or the athletes feel so much better. It's that whole, endorphin high, or what you just talked about, that I didn't know the lungs produce the same.
DMT, I think is what, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the benefits that you get from training and how it makes you feel after is amazing compared to putting drinks or anything else in your body. There's not an after effect that is positive with most of that, but the after effect of training is, health and wellness, lean body fat, stronger, ligament strength, more flexible. I mean, it goes on and on. I mean, I'm telling you, when I get off my old man walks or my bike, I feel totally different. Or twisting some steel for strength, not for size, just to get the muscles strong. Feels totally different than anything else I do at night at my house. Mm-hmm.
That's the recreation.
I earned that drink, as my old man would say. Son, don't ever drink without earning that drink. Okay. So, yeah. All right, I know. I'll wrap this one up because we got to have a part 2 for sure. I mean, we could go on and on. I knew Brittany would be like, she might be my part 3 girl if she has time for it. I mean, she's all over the place. I mean, thanks for giving me this time. I love you. I mean, you're like a damn sister, daughter. I don't know what age I'm in right now. Sometimes I'm an uncle to people. Sometimes I'm a dad. It's weird. Or the creepy old guy in the gym. You never know what the hell I am.
Brittany, we're calling neighborhood watch on you.
There's 2 neighborhoods looking out for me. All I need, I'll change it up with a pink collar next time and walk in pink headphones, and maybe that'll help out. I love you to death. Thanks for stopping by.
Love you. Thank you.
I can't wait.
Nothing like the Woodgym.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
I love it. Thank you. Perfect. We can go on and on.